We all think we know the story of that legendary duel at Ganryu Island. It's this epic showdown between two of Japan's greatest swordsmen, right? But what if I told you the fight wasn't really won with a sword at all? We're about to break down that famous battle, but not as a clash of steel. No, this was a brilliant, calculated demolition of an opponent's mind. Okay, so picture this. The year is 1612. We're on a remote island, and the stakes? Well, they're everything. This wasn't just some random fight. This was a clash of titans that people would be talking about for centuries. You've got the established master on one side and the wild, unpredictable challenger on the other. And just look at the contrast between these two. It's everything. First, you have Sasaki Kojiro. Think of him as a celebrity swordsman, the demon of the Western provinces. His technique was absolutely flawless, his long blade was famous, and his record was perfect. He was the establishment. And then you've got Miyamoto Musashi. He's a ronin, a wanderer. No fancy school, no polished style. He was a total outsider, known for his unconventional and, let's be honest, brutally effective approach. This was basically perfection versus chaos. And this brings us to the absolute central mystery of the whole duel. Musashi shows up, right? But he's not holding one of his legendary katanas. He's got a bakken, a wooden sword that he supposedly carved from a spare boat oar on his way to the island. I mean, it seems like pure arrogance, or maybe even madness. Why in the world would you do that? Well, because it wasn't madness at all. It was the first move in an absolute masterclass of psychological warfare. You see, Musashi wasn't there to fight Kojiro's body. He was there to completely dismantle his mind. The key to understanding this is that Musashi saw something profound. Kojiro's greatest strength was also his greatest weakness. All that perfect, polished, undefeated history had created what we'll call a rigid mastery. Kojiro was a master of one very specific system, and Musashi had absolutely no intention of playing by that system's rules. Think about it. A mindset that's built on being perfect is actually pretty vulnerable. It has to have control. It's fragile because it's all tied up in ego and reputation and this idea of being the best. So, what happens when you introduce a little bit of chaos? When you apply pressure and break that sense of control? The whole thing can just shatter. Musashi knew this, and he built his entire strategy around it. So let's look at this duel again, but with that in mind. What if arriving late wasn't just him being disrespectful? What if it was a tactical move? What if that wooden oar wasn't an insult, but a weapon, specifically designed to break expectations? Every single weird, unpredictable thing Musashi did was like a precision missile aimed directly at Kojiro's composure. This strategy wasn't just clever, it was the physical application of Musashi's core philosophy. He was literally weaponizing his worldview, a concept that he called the void. Now, the void, or ku, it sounds pretty mystical, I know, but it's actually a very practical state of mind. It's really about letting go of your ego, your expectations, all those perfect plans you have. It's about seeing what is actually happening in front of you, not what you think should be happening. And this allows you to be completely fluid, totally adaptable. So while Kojiro was trapped in his rigid system, Musashi was operating from this state of total freedom. So how did he actually do it? We can break Musashi's strategy down into 4 clear steps. First, he disrupted time. He showed up 3 hours late, forcing the celebrated master Kojiro to just sit there and wait, stewing in frustration and anger. Second, he used the elements. He made sure the morning sun was at his back, basically blinding Kojiro, and he even used the tides to plan his escape route. Third, he shattered expectations with that carved oar, this crude, almost primitive tool against Kojiro's famous, beautiful long blade. And finally, you put all those together and you get step 4, provoke Kojiro's ego and bait him into making a fatal mistake. And none of this was random. It was a sequence, like a psychological combo attack. The lateness frayed his nerves. The sun messed with his vision. The wooden sword insulted his very idea of mastery. By the time the fight actually started, Kojiro wasn't the calm, perfect swordsman anymore. He was agitated, angry, and completely off balance. Which brings us to the climax of this whole mental battle. You see, the duel was essentially won before the first blow was even struck. The physical part of the fight, that was just the confirmation. Just imagine the scene. Kojiro's been waiting for hours, absolutely furious. Musashi finally shows up, looking all disheveled, holding a piece of wood. Blinded by the sun and his own rage, Kojiro draws his legendary sword and,
in a fit of frustration, throws his scabbard into the water, yelling, "You are already dead." Musashi just calmly replied, "If you have no more use for your scabbard, you have already lost." Kojiro lunged, making a powerful but very predictable first strike.
And in that single moment, Kojiro's legendary skill meant absolutely nothing. His perfect technique, the one he'd spent his whole life honing, was being executed by a mind that was no longer in control. Musashi, calm and centered, just easily dodged the attack and countered with one decisive blow from his wooden oar. The perfect sword was defeated by an uncarved mind.
This is a core idea right from Musashi's own writings, and this duel is the ultimate proof of it. Kojiro was agitated, Musashi was calm. Kojiro was rigid, Musashi was fluid. I mean, that was the entire fight in a nutshell. So what do we take away from all this? The story of Ganryu Island isn't just one of Japan's greatest sword fights. It's really one of history's most brilliant lessons in strategy. At the end of the day, that single strike that ended the duel was just the physical results of a battle that had already been won on a much deeper, philosophical level. Musashi didn't just beat another swordsman that day, he defeated an entire mindset. So what are the lessons here that we can actually use? Well, first, true mastery isn't about being perfect, it's about being adaptable. Rigidity breaks. Second, the most important battlefield is often the one right between your ears. And finally, the ultimate weapon isn't a sharper sword, it's having a deeper understanding of your opponent's psychology. You know, Musashi's strategy is timeless because it really speaks to a universal truth. We all have our own kind of rigid mastery, those perfect plans, those fixed beliefs, the ego that we feel like we have to defend. So the question I want to leave you with is this. What are the unexpected, unconventional wooden oars that you could use to break your own patterns and maybe find a better path forward?